Hello and welcome. Thank you for being with us today. So my name is Andrea Popa. I'm the director of the Office of International Student Affairs at Emerson. And this event is co-hosted by Career Development Center, our office, the Office of International Student Affairs, along with Emerson LA and the Office of Alumni Relations. So before we get started today, we just have a few housekeeping notes. We would ask that you turn off your audio for now. And if you want to submit questions at any time, to use the chat button at the bottom of the Zoom window. We'll be monitoring the questions throughout. And after the presentation, the panelists will answer questions as long as time permits. So for now, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for the evening, Emi Bage. She's the Assistant Director of International Student Career Services here at Emerson. She is a first-generation Filipina American, born and raised in Boston area. She studied at Boston University and is now a graduate student in Emerson's Publishing and Writing program. Emi has been involved in campus ministries in Poland for 6 years and has traveled across Europe and Asia. She has 2 big kids who are in their second year of high school and college and who have also lived abroad as part of their upbringing. And when she's in the US, Emi has had roles in college admissions, student affairs, and career development, and loves to support international students and those considering international opportunities. So Emi, thank you. Take it away.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Andrea. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I'm really excited about our panel today. It's an accomplished group of Emerson alumni who represent a range of home countries and industries. They've had their own path regarding their visas. They've gone through a lot of the things that our international students will be approaching as they think about graduating and building their careers. So I'd like to introduce our panelists, and when I say their names, they can turn their cameras on. Georgina De Cruz was born in India, raised in Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates, and then lived in Canada and the US for college and grad school. Georgina has a master's in global marketing, communications, and advertising from Emerson, and received her BA from the University of New Brunswick in Canada, where she majored in media studies. Georgina is currently the Director of Marketing and Communications at Boston Trinity Academy. She possesses a cultural dexterity that informs her vast experience in fundraising and communications to engage audiences of diverse backgrounds, while advocating for best practices in operations, capacity building, and technology integration. She has a passion for partnering with local, national, and international nonprofits in diverse sectors to reach their strategic goals and build long-term sustainability. Georgina considers herself a storyteller who is always looking for creative ways to match capital with opportunity. Yuenyu Ann Zhang is a master's student in the Department of Cinema and Media Studies in the University of Southern California. Originally from China, she received her BA in Media Studies from Emerson in 2020. Ann's primary research interests center around early cinema, film preservation, and the archive, Chinese cinema, and East Asian studies. She has presented at the 2021 NYU Cinema Studies Conference and has an upcoming presentation at the 2022 Society for Cinema and Media Studies Conference. She has also published book reviews in The Moving Image, The Velvet Light Trap. Her other interests include film history, photography, and nitrate film preservation. Next, we have Victor Ribeiro, born in Brazil. And he is an Emerson class of 2020 grad with a BS in marketing and communications from Emerson. As a marketing specialist and Approach International, he provides direct support to his department in all things creative, including graphic design, internal and external communications, and marketing strategies for the organization. Outside of his full-time responsibilities, Victor also provides creative support to different music venues and art galleries in the Boston area. And then finally, 2021 Master's Grad in Publishing and Writing from Emerson, Amala Reddy currently works as Associate Editor for Commercial Integrator, a magazine for the audiovisual industry. She specializes in digital publishing and content marketing, when she's not tinkering with publication software, Amala can be found binging films or playing with cats. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. So let's get started in our conversation about your own arc, your story from Emerson to now, and your experiences. So I want to ask you a like sort of an icebreaker question, but there's a purpose to it. You think of the arrow when you're looking at a map to like a mall or like, a common space. There's an arrow that says you are here. So you are here in your current jobs, in your current place where you live, with this experience that you have as a whole person. Can you look backwards at your path and pick a landmark that was significant in bringing you to where you are now? I think I'll just start with Amala, and then we'll just go, or you can pass it along, or we can just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, so I also did my undergrad in India, and I did my undergrad in English literature. And once I finished that, I realized I definitely did not want to do my master's or PhD in English literature. So that was the pivot I took to exploring publishing, and Emerson was my first choice, always. And so the journey at Emerson has been wonderful, and I'm very happy that I chose this university because the connections I made through professors and other alumni was invaluable. And so I remember the turning point for me was when one of my professors at Emerson had put up this email about a seminar happening, which was being held by Scholastic on introduction to children's publishing. And that was an area I was really interested in. And prior to that, I had not had much success in applying for internships to children's publishing houses. So I attended that seminar, and it really gave me an insight to what the professionals were looking for, what the employers were looking for in those publishing houses. And I even reached out to one of them outside of that seminar, and I asked them personally how to write a cover letter and a resume. And I think that was my turning point, because once I did that, I started hearing back from employers who had initially rejected me, and now I was hearing back from 2 or 3 of them. And sadly, I could take only one, but that was the thing I learned through Emerson and through the connections and networking, that it opened up a lot of doors for me. So yeah, that was my experience.
Thanks, Amala. You never know when you just do what you think you should do and doors open, right? You just don't, and you don't know when, so you just keep trying. How about you, Georgina?
Well, I think for me, because I'm looking like 10 years on, and the path that I think was pivotal to me was, I think, well, there were many things. I think that as someone who's traveled extensively and has lived extensively in different parts of the world, I think making the decision to say, okay, you know what, I think I want to stay in the US. I think that was pivotal in determining what that next step would be. And then if I were to determine that I would like to continue to stay in the US and work here, then that would mean I would have to line up a couple of things to make that happen. And then if it were to find a job to extend my stay here, what would that look like? I think that was pivotal. And then the second thing was that, making that decision and then sticking to that decision. And that would mean like really looking at what's out there. And I think because of that, and because of that decision making, I recognize that the path would be a lot harder for someone who is an international student. So that was pretty clear. So then I would have to work twice as hard, which means that I would have to work twice as hard to connect, find a job, do the networking and all of those things. And I think for me, as a result of doing that, I'm sure we'll explore that a little bit later where we can get into that part of our story as to where we are today. I recognize that, you have your typical path where I could go into the marketing or PR or advertising, and you have your, agencies and companies that are looking for people in that space. But I recognized pretty quickly that I just kind of wanted to tie in what I was doing with something that had meaning and purpose for me personally. And that's when I kind of recognized that there was an industry or a path out there that was a nonprofit world that connected cause-related things or opportunities or things that I could be passionate about, and then sort of realize that I have transferable skills. And that's how I kind of ended up in development work, fundraising work, but obviously bringing in communications and marketing and all of the things that I kind of, really worked towards in terms of developing my skills, but also my educational background. think so those are kinds of things that were kind of pivotal to get me to where I am today.
Thanks, Georgina. Hey, how about you, Victor?
Yeah, so I was like, as I was hearing Georgina, it kind of like also reminded me at a certain point, even more when I was kind of like, I think it was like in one of these panels that Emerson was doing for international students, where like, I was really trying to understand how the industry worked and more of like the professional, scenario, like how it is to really apply, how can I make myself, an asset for a company, or how do I communicate those things? And it's like really tricky because I think that was like one of the biggest moments of realization for myself. For example, like really understanding that there are different needs for different talents, like in the industry, being working either like, like where I am right now, working like in the education. But there are needs like in every industry for graphic designers, for copywriters, for people that comes or not from this, for the marketing and communications background, right? So I think like that realization of understanding the need was more of a cherry on the cake, but like kind of like going back, going to Emerson and, learning the importance of getting involved, not only in the Emerson community, but kind of like reaching out and really like going after my passion, which always has been music and arts and graphic design. It really made me realize that although I was international and I didn't really speak that perfect English or the spectacular, I don't know, excellent writing and reading skills that you always see on the job applications, although I wasn't feeling like I was there yet, I knew that there were a lot of people that could help me getting there as well, right? So that's why like I really got involved and I started working with like many different, people in the music scene and outside of the music scene. And that really made me realize that you don't really need to apply for a job of being a real job to get real hands-on experience. You gotta like just be there and like watch how they do it, get involved and like watch different communities. So that really clicked for me, and I was able to bring that experience like when when I was in job interviews and people ask me how I work with others or how is my dynamic in a team. Like I was able to say like, based on my activities at Emerson and based on, my own willingness to get involved in different ideas back in my country. And sometimes like watching other people's project here, I was able to just really learn it, So anyways, I guess that's a bit of like my moment of like really realization and going back there.
Yeah, I love that. I love the whole idea of you learn as you do it, right?
Exactly.
You connect with others, you connect with the community, and you just learn and you keep talking about it. And even when you're talking about your industry with a classmate, you're practicing talking about your industry. That's like
Exactly.
prep for an interview, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much. So how about Anne? What was your landmark moment that sort of was a turning point for you?
Yeah, well, I'll also have to agree with Victor on how hands-on at Emerson is. Basically all the experience I had at Emerson was so hands-on and just prepares you super well. But I'll have to say my turning point moment will probably was when I decided I want to apply for grad school, because I always just know I wanted to go into academia. But deciding that I wanted to apply for grad school and then doing that while having like 4 classes and a job at school was like a deciding moment. I think it was the right choice. I'm very, very happy I did it. And also the Emerson professors all helped me so much in both writing my recommendation letters and also helping me choose schools and just navigate the kind of intimidating scene of trying to get into grad school. All of the professors were so helpful, and I had so many people who helped me along the way. So that was a deciding moment for me to apply for grad school, and then thankfully got into some grad school. So that was great. I've always known I wanted to stay in academia and teach in higher education. So just one step at a time, first masters and then later PhDs, hopefully. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. I'm thinking about this is a question that's sort of similar, but it involves a decision. And I'm thinking about risk. And can you share a story about a risk that you had to take, a decision that you had to make that you really weren't sure of the outcome? And even if it ended negatively, how did you navigate that? Or how do you balance your choice? Who do you consult for advice? And how do you use your sort of Emerson community if you do, to help guide you through those decisions. Anyone have some thoughts? So I don't have to pick on anyone. Anne, go ahead.
I can go because it's also related, honestly. So I would say my big decision slash something that I thought I wouldn't be able to do was moving to Los Angeles. I really didn't. So I was at ELA before I graduate. So that was a pandemic semester. It was January to March/May 2020. And I was at ELA. I was doing an internship. I was really happy with my internship at a gallery, but I really did not like Los Angeles back then. Like, I just did not like it. I did not like how big the city is. I didn't have a car. I hate having to you can't walk around anywhere because it's so different from Boston. Boston, you can almost walk to any places. And Los Angeles, you're just kind of confined in your own small group, but the city is so big. So I didn't like the city at all, but I liked my job, and my ELA friends was great. So when I got into USC, I was like, no, I'm definitely not going to go. There's no way I'm going. But then they were like, come visit our campus for a little bit and see the professors and talk to the professors. And it was a lovely experience. And I was like, oh God, I might have to move to LA just based on this school, but I'm going to hate the city of living there for 2 more years. And actually ELA helped me a lot with that. Like, when I was there during the pandemic, they let international students stay on campus because we have nowhere else to go during the lockdown. But we stayed there. I actually talked to a lot of the RDs and just people living in Los Angeles. And they're like, and if you're like the school, if they're giving you money, because I'm getting paid for being a TA, like, which is great. Not a lot of school gives you that. I'm like, and they're like, if you're getting paid and you're getting your education, just go. Like, the city will grow on you. I'm like, I don't believe that at first. But later, of course, I decided to come to Los Angeles. It was a decision that I was not sure about when I made that decision. But after like a semester here, it was, I don't know, the city does grow on you, I feel like, and you kind of learn to navigate it. It just really tell me that, like, it tests my adaptation kind of ability to adapt to a new environment. And like, after this cross-country move, I feel much better of just surviving and living anywhere, really. So that was great. I'm very happy I moved. So yeah.
That's great. You had to do it twice, coming to the US in the first place and then going
That's
to
right.
LA.
That's right. Less luggage the first time, though. Much less luggage.
Yes. Anyone want to go next? Amala, Victor, Georgina?
You go next.
Okay.
I think like one of the biggest decisions for me was actually like, I didn't really have much of a decision, although I had, but I think like one of the points where I really had to decide was like either if I would keep on applying for different jobs in the area that I actually wanted, or if I would take an opportunity and take a job as a work in the marketing department of a company that I wasn't really, I didn't really see myself in it at first. I guess like I didn't see my career taking off in that industry. I've always wanted to work in a creative agency, and it was really hard for me to detach from that idea of like, like I really want to touch bigger campaigns and work with like people that are super creative and kind of come up with innovative projects. But what I really found out was that I have this in me, and I can bring this wherever I go. So working in this place in the marketing department doesn't mean that I'm not able to innovate in my own way. It just means that it's a different industry, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get to the industry that I actually want. So it was definitely like a big decision because I had this offer and I was thinking, should I keep on looking or should I go for it? Because that was, I really needed it. So I took it, and I am really happy I made the decision to really take the opportunity to stay, because I've been able to practice most of the things that I thought I wouldn't, and even better. I mean, like where I'm working, I got the freedom to really choose different projects that I want to work on and kind of like, really have the flexibility to work on my ideas. So I feel like at the end of the day, that ended up being the best thing for me. So, yeah.
I'm going to follow from Victor's direction here because I think a lot that he said has a lot of resonance. I think it just started at Emerson, right? Like a lot of things that perhaps you have, I mean, at least I encountered in my coursework was this idea of taking risks, right? Even with the stories that you tell and the stories that you express of yourself or for others, right? Like it involves a degree of putting yourself out there, a degree of vulnerability and a degree of risk. So I think it starts there, but also like finding your voice in all of that, like who you are in that process. And so you also kind of want to emerge in the jobs that you hopefully land in, right? And so I think that to Victor's point was that I think what was critical for me was the point wherein like I did a couple of internships and I knew at that point in time that perhaps I didn't necessarily want to be in an agency. You know, I didn't want to be at a marketing firm. I wasn't exactly pumped about it. So when this opportunity came to sort of like a marketing position, a marketing communications position at a house museum here in Boston, it was so left field. I was like, a house museum? They're like, yeah, we're looking for someone to market an event. But can you write grants? And I'm like, write a grant for what? Well, we're trying to fundraise. And I thought that was like, okay, I could do that. I mean, I could try that. I think I could write. I think I could communicate. And so I kind of took that on. And to realize that, you know, we succeeded and I kind of got like a $400,000 grant. I don't know what it did to me, but it was like, it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, wait, okay. I mean, look what we're going to be able to do for this museum. And we were able to use that money to preserve certain aspects of this museum, which was, I found it quite fulfilling. But it was something that I would not have considered at all if you were told me when I got out of grad school, because I just saw myself doing something totally different. But because of that risk, because of saying yes to something that was so out there, something quite unexpected, I think. And I think I just kind of want to encourage people here, particularly our panelists, to kind of, you know, to kind of explore things that might seem a little unexpected, unusual, and to kind of stay open, because you'll be surprised of where you'll land, but you'll also discover that your voice and who you are can emerge from that. And so I do think that because of that, I pivoted. I ended up doing a lot of grant writing, but also realized that I have a real great passion for fundraising. And I'm so grateful for that because, you know, today, you know, I'm raising millions of dollars for the things that I'm passionate about, like educational access. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't say yes that point 10 years ago. So, yeah.
I think that's just so wonderful. And I love that. I'm going to follow up on that. I think because for me, I was actually working 2 internships at the beginning of my OPT, and both were in small children's publishing houses. And not even a month in, I got an offer for a full-time editor, my current position now, for this magazine that caters to the integration industry, an industry I don't think any of us actually know about. Even I didn't know when I had applied for the job. But what was so attractive to me about that job offer was that it allowed me to explore not just my editing side, but also my writing side as a journalist as well. And while I really, really loved the internships I was doing, I was not writing as much. I was mostly just going through manuscripts. But this job offer was allowing me to explore the industry in ways I had not even imagined. And just the idea of the integration industry, it's the audiovisual industry. And as a former dancer myself, I was already interested in that field. And so, like Georgina said, putting yourself out there, I decided to give that a shot. And that's where I am now. I have written features about women in the AV industry, which has been well received by all of the community over there. And I think that's realizing where my passion lies, you know, writing about a community, writing about an industry that is so unknown otherwise, and learning about the wonderful things that they do. And they're in every facet. They're in higher ed, they're in entertainment, they're in healthcare, they're in houses of worship, they're everywhere. We just don't know about it. But I think the other point I want to make is that as international students, we often feel, you know, we have to grapple with the thought of, do we want this job because it offers us a pathway to success, or do we want this job because it allows us to stay here in the States? And both are not wrong. Both are valid points. And you're really lucky when you have both coming in one job, but sometimes, you know, you have one offer that's allowing you to stay in the States, and you have another offer that actually aligns with your interests and goals. And I think the biggest risk for us is figuring out which one we want to take. And it's an answer even I cannot answer today, but it's always something we have to keep thinking about. I think that's the biggest risk we have to always take.
There's a theme that I'm hearing among everyone is openness. And that's something so that you're open to surprises, or you're open to, you know, an invitation to sit, to do something you would not have thought of you would be doing, or going where you didn't expect that you would be going, which is really exciting. I think that there's a lot of, you know, maybe some fear or insecurity about what's ahead because it's so unknown. But I think the openness helps get you there. So I really appreciate your stories. I want to now think about like your Emerson community and how you're connected to it. What, how has it supported you? How do you utilize your Emerson community to sort of like be a part of your foundation and your strength? And also like, how do you see yourself being involved as an alum, or how are you involved as an alum?
I guess I can start because I actually there was there was a very specific project in which I worked on through my OPT, which really allowed me to bring friends from the Emerson community. I brought a friend of mine who was also an international student, Dana, and I brought another friend who worked with me at MCOM, which is the in-house agency at Emerson, right? That was Diego, and Diego, he was, you know, really it was like an inspiring marketer because I love the way he handled himself and how well spoken he's always been. And I knew that Diego was also really good at PR, and Dana was a copywriter, and I've always been a graphic designer. So there was a moment where I got the opportunity to start a cultural center with a few friends, in which they got a lease in Central Square of like a huge space that was basically like a 3D printing company. It was just offices. And we turned that place into a cultural center for electronic music, art, and technology. We had a few friends from the Media Lab in which were totally down to collaborate with us, which was even more amazing. We released a lot of press releases, and we were all over the news in a way, like around our communities, which was like also really cool because I got to see my name there, and it was all because there was this collaboration between us. You know, we kind of like became like this super team, but mostly because we knew how to collaborate with each other since we worked together at Emerson, right? So the ability to collaborate is definitely one of the most important things that I can you know, say in my experience at Emerson. Like being able to collaborate with different people has honestly changed a lot of projects and a lot of aspects of my life. So I definitely see myself, you know, bringing more of this Emersonian like community in this area that I am, in the industry that I am, because I like the ideas, I like the way people work, and I know that there is like kind of like this dynamic already pre-made, honestly. And for example, right now in the marketing department, we're, you know, when we're looking for talent, we always think of getting interns from Emerson, and most importantly, hopefully interns that are international students that could speak English, Spanish, or maybe not even international students. Could be an American student that could speak Spanish and English, but being bilingual is important, you know? So that's a good side of being an international student, I guess.
I guess oh, sorry. I guess I'll go next after Victoria. That's great. Like I said, I feel like Emerson is such a hands-on school, and people are like, Emersonians know what they want. That's the kind of general feeling I get from being at Emerson for 4 years. It's everybody in their own major loves what they do and know what they want to do. It's just kind of amazing to see that, especially, you know, with such a hands-on school, and like a lot of people go into media or marketing related kind of professions. I'll answer this question from like kind of two perspectives. One is from the professor perspective. I feel like a lot of the great connection I made at Emerson and that stay with me were professors. Like, of course, that's also because I want to go into academia and I seek the professor out intentionally. but I've taken class with one professor for 4 times at Emerson, and we still stayed in touch with each other even until today. He still gives me advice on, because he works in silent cinema. If anybody knows, is Peter Flynn. He's great. Take a great class with Peter Flynn. He's absolutely amazing. But we still text each other, and we still, like, have calls regularly. He gives me advice on like choosing PhD schools as well. Just a lovely person all in all. And since we're working in the same kind of profession, so we talk a lot. And all these professor relationships will just stay with you. And all the professors at Emerson are just so willing to help all of the times. Like they're willing to, his class was fully booked. Yes, he's very popular. He's on popular demand usually with his seminar classes. I see in the chat someone said, yes, that's professors. And even like my intro to media history professor, who's no longer at Emerson, is actually in the same conference that I'm going to this year. So you just see all these professors in different occasions in your life if you're in media. And another I will say is the student from Emerson all go into the industry, and they're well known in the industry. That's like a fact. It's just crazy to think of how many people knows. Like when you say like, oh, you're from Emerson or you went to Emerson, they're like, oh yeah, someone at our studio is working our studio is from Emerson, graduated like 5 years ago. And it just happens, story like that happens all the time, especially in Los Angeles, I would say. There's so many Emersonians just working in the industry. And it's not even like, do you want to make this connection? It's like, you will see Emersonians everywhere, basically. And then like the connection and the same school you went to and the story, professors, all that, will just all come up if you see each other in conversations. And that's just really lovely. And ELA really helps with that a lot. If you have a chance, go to ELA. I highly recommend. But yeah, so yeah, I think the Emerson community just will stay with you forever, which I love.
Yeah, I'll just add to that and say that the Emerson community is very good at paying it forward. I think because once we've been part of the community and you've been part of that, you just know that you belong. And then so you find another Emersonian, you just embrace them with open arms. For me, it was another Emerson alumni who had graduated 2 years prior who I met, and she was just so happy to see another publishing and writing major in the grad department. She was just so happy, and she recommended me for an internship, which I got, and the manager still remembered her during my interview. So we actually ended up talking a lot about Emerson in the interview itself, and then from there, when I worked at the internship, even after I left, and I still stay in touch with him. He even asked me about her, my Emerson alumni, and she asked me about him. So I said at one point we should just all meet, but the pandemic, of course, has not allowed for that. And he's moved out to Texas. That's a whole other thing. But it was just so that bond is always there with Emersonians. I even see it. On the Facebook groups, the Mafia group, there's always someone helping someone. And I think as international students, you need that support. For me, I was part of the International Graduate Student Organization, and even when we were really tired and done with studies, we would always find a way to meet and talk about all our frustrations. And I think that's the power of being an Emersonian. And that has carried over to my work. I have found an Emersonian at work too, who graduated years ago, and she's now an account executive at my company in the sales department. And she also talked a lot about how Emerson has helped her grow as an individual, and I think that's what it does. That's what being an Emersonian is about.
Georgina, I know your thoughts, your gears are turning in there.
Yes, I mean, I'm just really impressed by the other panelists. That's just to just see them instead of like, just going for what they believe in is just really inspiring. It's inspiring me actually. So yes, I think Emerson really helps me really kind of, in many ways, like I think my experience being a student there really gave me some sort of level of clarity in terms of direction of where I'd like to go. And to what Anne said, like, you kind of know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, it typically being there at Emerson helps you clarify for yourself or helps you get a little closer to what it is that you would like to do. So I think that really helped. And I think I'm going to kind of like, I have a little bit of everything that everyone else has mentioned. So a particular professor actually helped me and really encouraged me to take on, you know, this path of going into the nonprofit world. So she worked for the American Red Cross, and I'm still in touch with her. I talk to her basically. She's teaching at Emerson anymore. She stopped teaching about 5 years ago, but we connect almost on a monthly basis. I consider her a friend more than a professor, but I met her at Emerson. And so we connect on everything professionally. She does everything from review my resume, help prep me for an interview, 10 years on, 10 years on. And also life advice. If I am concerned about something, I can quickly text her or call her. But she also ended up being a great resource and a support for me as an international student here, right? So like building your own community, really. And it could be, and it's really a community of Emersonians for me, particularly an Emerson professor, but also you know, to your point, I think overall point, like it really did become family. So like in some ways, like she's about like, you know, my consigliere, she's like my advisor, so, as Jenny mentioned over here, but she's also a great resource and support, and she has my back, right? And so I'd really encourage you, because I think that particularly as an international student, like it's really great to have people like that. And I found my person in an Emersonian professor, like part of my tribe. And in terms of my friends at Emerson, so we were really like a band of brothers, the international students, particularly in my class. And, you know, like I still contact them when I'm looking for advice or a pick me up, or things like, I need to be empowered right now. And they have some wonderful things to say, like, no, Georgina, you could, like, path is hard, but we can do this. And so, because a lot of us continue to stay here or go overseas or really pursue things that were hard, but we knew that we were really, you know, we really were passionate about it. So I think that in many ways, like I to everyone's point, like, you know, a lot of the jobs that I got, they were like, we saw Emerson on your resume. We're like, we knew you got some chops. And I was just, I always laugh when I think about it, because a lot of the interviews that I got, or the jobs that I held, or the internships that I held, that having that right next to my name on a resume, I think in many ways, I mean, this is something that was even mentioned in interviews where like, we knew you had something to offer, like, because we saw that, and, you know, and thankfully, I was able to deliver, because, so, but I think it really helped. And I, as Amala said, like, there's a lot of Emersonians at my workplace, and we have this bias, like, we just know, like, we just believe that, you know, we know where it's at, like, we got this. And there's a level of arrogance, which I think drives everyone else crazy, but, you know, but there's a certain level of respect that we get because we're from Emerson, and the fact that everyone thinks that we produce great work, even at where I work. So yeah, so I say that with a lot of pride.
That's so great. I love it. And, you know, I'm thinking about my next question, but I feel like we covered so much because all of your stories were very holistic. And you're talking about, you know, Emerson is part of your identity, and as, you know, as what you bring to your workplaces, your international identity, all of these things woven together that makes you a strong person. I really see a lot of strength in everybody here, and it's really inspiring, like Georgina was saying. And Victor had mentioned earlier about, you know, being bilingual is a strength, and those sort of characteristics of an international student, and combined with it being an Emersonian, like that's power to me. And I love that Georgina said, like, when you want to be empowered, you go to your Emerson people. And I feel like that too. I feel like, you know, I get that even as someone who is on staff. And I encourage those who are on the call to really think about that. Think about the things you've heard about collaboration. You know, when you work together with those while you're still a student, those collaborative relationships can go forward after you graduate. That has a lot of value as well. And the openness to the unexpected, I think, was also a really great theme. So I just want to go, I think we do have some time for questions, but before we do that, I'd like to just offer some time for, you know, each of our panelists to sort of, you know, share a thought, a bit of advice, what you would say to your sort of first year self when you first arrived in either undergrad or at Emerson, because I know that might be different for different folks. You know, what kind of advice would you give to this group as you reflect on how you got started and where you came from and all of that?
Okay, I can go first here. I think the biggest advice I would give, and it's a very cliche one, to myself back in 2019 is don't give up. There are going to be a lot of hurdles, and a lot of unexpected things such as the pandemic, which none of us foresaw. But I think the one thing that kept all of us going was the spirit, the enduring spirit of seeing things through, of going forward. And especially as international students, it's really hard, because you have to keep trying. You have to keep trying. You have to keep applying yourself. And there are times when you have mental breakdowns. We've all had them at some point in our lives. And as international students, it hits even harder because you're in a whole new country by yourselves. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of that encouragement to know that you're not alone. There's always people out there to help you, and don't ever give up. Something or the other will always work out in the end. And that's something I have to tell myself even now.
I definitely agree. That was that was great. That's great advice. I should probably tell myself that as well. Facing 5 more years of PhD schools anyway. But I was gonna say, if I have any advice or anything for everybody here or myself when I was a freshman, is to take advantage of on-campus job early on, actually. Like it's like something practical probably. Because as an international student, you can really do a lot of off-campus job. You can do CPT and all that, but it's not as available as those are to the domestic student. But on-campus job, there are a great many opportunities that you can get, including whatever, like the television studios. I worked in the dark room because I really liked photography and it related to my work. I also worked for orientation, which is great. I did 3 years of orientation leader. I loved every single minute of it. And, if you're core staff, you also get paid, which is awesome. And like all of these jobs will, like, even though they're on-campus jobs, it's because Emerson is such a hands-on school and you get to work with the staff who are really professional. You get all the basically any skill you needed for an entry-level job, administrative job. Like these jobs on campus will teach you that and will kind of accustom you into that kind of work environment, and it's great for international students. So take advantage of that. It really helped me a lot when I was there. So yeah.
I actually wanted to go right off on that too, because it's very similar to what I wanted to advise on. It's like definitely like take as much advantage as you can from all the opportunities on campus. I actually, and I think I got introduced to you before when I worked at MTP a while ago, and I was just clicking in. And I was like really interesting. I worked at MTP for like a year and 7 months, and a lot of the operational administrative skills that I got and like ability to communicate, follow up, all those like things that are really necessary wherever you go, I learned everything there, And actually, if it wasn't for that opportunity, maybe I would not have gotten this opportunity that I have right now, because thanks to working with Sofia Vargas, who was my boss at the time. Like I said, like in the beginning of when I was getting my OPT, everything was really late, and I applied for a few places. I thought I was gonna get a few opportunities, and I always at that moment when they ask, or when you don't give the confidence because you don't know when you're gonna receive your OPT. So, out of nowhere, I got reached out by my current boss, who is the CMO of the company where I work. And it was purely because Sofia Vargas recommended me to her. And I got that job. And it was really, really like rewarding to know that like all the time that I spent working on campus didn't only help me at the time with the skills, but also brought me another opportunity, So it was amazing. And if there is another thing that I would like to add to is just, get involved as much as you can too with like different student organizations, clubs, or if you're passionate about music, connect with people from different schools. Like I've been able to connect with people in different areas, like a few friends that made friends at MIT in a media lab, and made friends from Berkeley that were working with like synthesizers, which were all things that I was passionate about. So, these people, I did not only learn a lot from them, but like they became my friends, and they're people that I can learn more from, and we always exchange ideas. So I do think it's very, very valid and important to always network and try to put yourself out there, and just get to know new people, get involved, get in different projects, and it will definitely pay up in the future for sure.
I was just going to piggyback off what everyone else has said. I think one of the things I would really recommend or suggest is to continue to talk to people, like just having conversations. I mean, I kind of like, I always think about the word networking, right? It sounds so buzzy, but what I would suggest is connecting or connection. Like, look at ways to connect with others, connect with things that you're passionate about, connect with your affinity groups, connect with things that perhaps like, I don't know, I'm going to go try out that thing, right? And so what I would suggest is like, continue to kind of, like look at ways to really experience different things, but also experience different people. You're an international student. I think that's the second thing I want to say. Like, I always say, like, being an outsider is not a bug, but it's a feature, right? So it's just like, see that as your own superpower. Think about it. Like, you're able to navigate cultures. You're able to navigate circumstances that are quite hard. So you have this inbuilt resilience, and if you don't have it, you will build it. Trust me, this process will take you very far in terms of building your resilience, but also building, as I said, your own voice and expressing yourself in whatever medium that you choose. And Emerson helps to kind of, as I said, clarify that for you. So I always think about it as like, being an international student is your strength, own it. I always say, like, own that as your strength, because you bring something that others don't, right? That's very uniquely you from your life experiences and the oceans or the countries that you might have traveled across from. So I just would encourage you to be like that self-belief, like, yes, I have something to offer. I'm here. And if you wish to choose to wherever you go in the world, right? Like, you might want to continue the US, but also recognize that, the world is your ocean. I say that, but like, it really is. And you could just sort of like go anywhere. But the important thing is that, that you believe, that this is what you would want to do, take your Emerson experiences and your skills, and, go out there and change the world. Really. I mean, you can, it's possible for you. And whatever your dreams look like, just keep at it. Keep at it.
So there are a couple of questions that are in the chat that I wanted to start with. And I'm wondering if any of you want to talk about the challenges. Did any of you find it difficult to find a job as an international student? Could you speak to the challenges and how you overcame them?
I think, not sure. I'll go first. I'll be super honest. It is incredibly hard. It is really, really hard. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's very hard to get a job as an international student, because and I'm talking from two perspectives. One, from on-campus job, because I know that's also a hot topic, and off-campus job. On-campus jobs, I remember when I first came in my first semester, most of the jobs had already been taken from the job board. I remember I was applying only to hear back saying, we've already filled the position. It took me 2 semesters to find an on-campus job, but it was an on-campus job that I held for a year and a half. And I worked as a web services assistant. So I worked on the Emerson website for a long time. And through that, I actually worked with Andrea. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. But it took a lot of determination and struggle. I have written over 100 cover letters everywhere. So I will say that is one thing, especially when you're coming from a creative side of the industry where cover letters are a must. I know my friends in the software industry, in the STEM industry, but they don't have to submit anything like that. It's just a resume. But for us, we have to apply ourselves a little more to, present ourselves as creative individuals. It takes a lot more effort. And so what my advice is, make sure you have a spreadsheet of jobs you're applying to on campus and off campus. Even off campus, I think, look for jobs that offer credits for your college, the college credit that because you require it as international students as part of your CPT program. And also when you're doing your OPT, make sure you, or at least try looking for jobs while you're applying for your OPT. So when it arrives, you're not unemployed. I think I'm being very honest here, because that's the advice I was looking for when I was applying for all of this. and it was worth it in the end. In the end, it pays off. All that hard work pays off. All those nights of writing very long letters pay off eventually. So it is hard, but it is possible, and you can do it. We are Emersonians, we can do it.
I appreciate that response so much. Yeah, was there somebody else that wanted to jump in on?
I wanted to jump in just because I want to just express the support that we offer at the Career Development Center. I know that I helped Amala with some of the hundreds of resumes. So we do look at resumes. We help you customize them for different jobs, having them be, sort of strategically created. And we talk about the time management piece also. We talk about, sometimes, passion is sometimes very fluid. It might change. You might discover it because you say yes to something that you didn't expect to say yes to. So we talk about those things because nothing is like solid or set in stone. We're evolving. And so, those kinds of conversations we have at the Career Development Center while also providing sort of those, those traditional support services like resume, cover letter, interview practice, and all of that. How are we doing with questions?
There's one other question that I want to address. So somebody's asking if you could talk a little bit about your experience moving to work visas. And I do just want to do a little bit of a shout out that on Monday, we do have our attorney session. So Monday, April 11th at 7 p.m. in the Zoom room, we're going to have a session with attorney Mary Walsh. She talks about H-1B and alternatives for artists and entrepreneurs. So I would encourage you to come back for the session with her. But I think this question really has to do with your experience. How did it work for you? And for those of you on OPT right now, what's going on? How's the water? So.
So, sorry. So I guess for me, I was really lucky because I'm working in a language center, and I had kind of a close relationship with the CMO and CEO. And they kind of offered to sponsor me right at first, after I was working with them for 3 or 4 months. And right now I'm currently in touch with the CEO and CMO and the company's attorney to see what would be the options for me if beyond the H-1B, if there could be other work visas like EB-3 or something like this that could be available through that organization. So that's kind of how I am, but it felt really good to know that the company really wants to keep me. And for that, they have a lawyer, they have someone who's available to answer whatever questions you have. And if they even schedule monthly appointment, they kind of do checkups if you want help filling out your application and things like this. So for me, it's been really good. But I know that in really bigger companies, I have friends who works in corporations, and I know it hasn't been like this for them because, it's really easy for people to just kind of ignore the challenges that you might have to keep international talent. So, but yeah, I've been lucky.
I'll just say a very quick thing. I feel like I'm less qualified to answer this question because I've just been on F1 visa since I got here. I jumped on OPT for a very brief summer, but that was the pandemic summer. So I just transferred directly back to F1. But I will say a quick thing about grad school and related stuff is you get most grad schools, no, not most, but you do find grad schools that gives you money, they give you a stipend. And then you do find a lot of grad school that will give you a TA-ship on campus because as a grad student, you take much less classes, and then they expect you to teach if you're interested in all of that teaching. So, I mean, I teach on campus and I receive a yearly stipend plus scholarship. So it's if you're interested in continuing your education, finding a grad school that has a funded program and a good kind of TA relationship, that's a great way to do it because you I'm getting paid decently as a grad student. So it's pretty nice if you wanted to find a grad school. Also find a grad school that will sponsor you instead of finding a grad school that will let you pay tuitions. But yeah.
I think it's an excellent strategy, actually. And I think career strategy, even because moving on into graduate study does open doors that open other visas. So it is super helpful. I know I'm looking at the clock, but I know this is such an important question for folks. Do people have any other thing to say about the jump?
Yes, I'd like to add to this because I've been at this for a very long time, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody listened to what Anna had to say, because that's another pathway, right? It is another pathway for you, even if it means to giving you more time to decide what you want to do. So think about that strategically, which means to be strategic actually with your moves. But I think one of the things that I recognized pretty quickly is that you have to start to get ready in terms of just building your emotional reserves, because rejection is going to come, and it's going to be really, really difficult to process that, because you're looking around and finding that people are just landing, positions that you would think would have been easier for you, but it's probably not going to happen. At least some of us are lucky, some of us are not that lucky. It's extremely hard for me, but I got really prepared to be like, okay, rejection is redirection, keep it moving. So one of the things I would recommend is don't spend too much time with things that have not worked out. So if you've got a rejection or say this is not going to work out, that's fine. I would probably not overthink it. Get the lessons that you have from this, and then continue to apply for other positions, other jobs, right? And I think one of the things you want to do is also start a little bit early, knowing that this process is going to be a little bit harder. And one of the things is that many years ago, one of the things I recognize is that there's a lot of companies and places out there that do not know about the process, and so you have to become your own advocate. I cannot stress this enough. You are going to have to do the education. So a lot of these places, a lot of these companies have no clue about the process, do not want to be bothered about the process. And so if you feel very strongly about this particular position, and you think that, to Amala's point, this is a pathway for me to be in the US, then you need to be ready to step outside of your comfort zone and seek that discomfort and put yourself out there and advocate for yourself. If they say, you know what, we really don't do the work visa, which I got a lot of, and I was like, let me help you. I can help educate you about the process. And I demystified the process for them. So you start to look at, building your own documentation around how you will explain the process, who the attorney is, and so on and so forth. And you'll find out on Monday a little bit more of the technical details. But what I recommend is that there is a pathway. I did it. All of the places that I worked with, they've never sponsored someone before. But what I did realize is that I wanted those positions, I wanted those jobs, and I just went for it, right? So one of the things that it is exhausting, right? So, but I also realized that, well, the payoff will be huge, and the payoff has been huge. And so I would say that you have to become your own biggest advocate here. Sometimes you might be lucky and you land something, but sometimes you're going to have to realize pretty quickly that you're going to have to work a lot harder, and you're going to have to be prepared for that rejection that will come your way. Because I'll tell you, you're just looking for the one yes, right? So there's going to be 100 no's. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. They're just looking for the one yes, and it will eventually pay off and work out. And so I think one of the things I would say would be that will help build resilience. And I also think that it will also help you become just a better professional. Seriously, it has for me. And I will also encourage you to help others along the way, right? So if you've succeeded, share your knowledge, share your connections, share your networks, pay it forward. So that's something I would say too, help others that come behind you, particularly the international students, because you know how lonely this experience is, right? So it becomes less alone in this process. So if you can help wherever you are, whatever you're doing, to put a word in, it doesn't have to be an Emersonian graduate. It could be an international student anywhere, right? And so I would say help them if you can, put a word in for them, encourage them even if it has to, as you go through this process, because I think that will do a lot for you, but also for the other individual.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for that send off there. Amala, I see your hand, but did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Yes, I just want to add to Georgina's wonderful advice right now. It's so fantastic. I love that advice, Georgina. The other thing I want to tell every international student is that if a company is not willing to sponsor you, that doesn't mean you're not qualified. You are highly qualified. It's just that the system is against you right now, but you can work with the system eventually and get where you want. Just don't ever lose the belief in your own qualifications, because it can, like you said, like she said, like Georgina said, you're going to get rejections multiple times, and that can be often, demoralizing. So the thing is just keep that in mind, that you're qualified enough and you earn every bit of it.
Yeah.
I
Don't take it
love-
personally.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah.
take it personally.
You guys are the best cheering squad here. Such great advice. Thank you so much. I do see the messages that sort of ask about how to, Katya, I see your question about how to connect with people. I'm going to suggest that one of the practical ways that you can connect is actually on Emerge right now. Going on the emerge.emerson.edu, keeping on this conversation with the panelists, even to follow up. So you'll find them all there. So huge thank you to our panelists for their time and their insights. Make sure that you're connecting with the panelists on MConnect. We'll see you Monday for the workshop with Mary Walsh, the attorney. And I also just wanted to tell you that during Emerson Week, so Emerson Week is the week between finals and graduation. This year, we're super excited that Ginny is actually coordinating the Office of Alumni Relations. They're coordinating meetups with different regional groups of international alumni. So there's actually going to be 3 opportunities for you to connect with alumni in South America, one for Europe and Africa, and one for alumni in Asia. So this is going to be a first ever opportunity to really have that connection with folks that sort of move from the US and back globally. So find out more about that at emerson.edu/alumni. So under the information related to Emerson Week. So Ginny, I don't know if I'm missing anything. So we're talking about Emerge, Alumni Week. Get out there, support each other, and thank you so very much for your time this afternoon. So thank you and good night.
Thank you, everybody. It was great talking to you.
Bye-bye.